Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to make an apple pie from scratch. We're going to start with the crust. Here I have 1 teaspoon of salt, 5 tablespoons of water, 3/4 of a cup of butter, or 1½ sticks, and 2 cups of flour. I'm going to be using my KitchenAid stand-up mixer, but if you don't have one, you can always use your hands or a handheld mixer. I'm going to use my dough hook attachment to make the crust. Mix together the flour, salt, and butter that you have cut into small cubes. It is important that you keep the butter cold throughout the entire crust making process. This will ensure the flakiness of your crust. Mix at medium-high speed. When the butter has broken into even smaller pieces and is beginning to mix with the flour, it is time to add the water. Only add half of your water at first. Mix the mixture again until the water is completely dried up into the flour. Add the rest of the water and mix once more. Mix until the dough appears smooth instead of dry, and until the dough looks more like a dough instead of crumbs. Remove the dough from the bowl and place on a clean surface. Knead the dough until it is well mixed, stretchy, and pliable. Then pull apart into 2 separate even pieces. And then shape each of the 2 pieces into round discs. If one of the discs turned out bigger than the other, simply take part of the bigger disc and add it to the smaller one. Now we are going to wrap each of the pieces of dough in plastic wrap. When we are done, we are going to place them in the fridge for 30 minutes. Now it's time for the filling. In this recipe that I use for this, it just tells you to mix the apples with everything else, but it never says anything about cooking the apples. So my dad suggested that I bake them before even adding them into the pie. In result, the pie filling was less watery. The apples were soft instead of crunchy. Set your oven to 350 degrees. As you just saw, you will need to wash and dry some apples. You will need 6 Granny Smith or Golden Delicious apples. I am using Granny Smith. Now you will need to peel all of the apples. When they are peeled, you will need to cut them. You can cut them any way you like as long as they are in bite-sized pieces. Then, when they are all sliced, it is time to bake them. Put them in a cake pan with a tiny bit of water, and put them in the oven for 45 minutes to an hour. If the apples are soft and have lost color, it's time to mix them with the rest of the ingredients for the filling. Preheat the oven to 375 degrees if you want to bake your pie slowly for an hour, or set it at 400 degrees and bake your pie for 15 minutes. Back to mixing the filling. Drain all the water from the pan that the apples are in. Pour the cooked apples into a large bowl. The ingredients we are going to need for this part are 1/3 of a cup of white sugar, 1/3 of a cup of brown sugar, 3 tablespoons of flour, 1 to 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, depending on how dry or juicy your filling turns out, and in this last bowl I have 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and half a teaspoon of nutmeg. Add in the white sugar, the brown sugar, the spice mixture, the lemon juice, and the flour. Mix together with a spoon or spatula. When it is well mixed, put the bowl of apples in the refrigerator until we are ready to use them. Now it's time to roll out the crust. Sprinkle flour onto a clean surface. Take one of your discs of dough out of the refrigerator, unwrap it, and place it on your floured surface. Make sure everything is sprinkled with flour so that your dough doesn't stick to anything. Begin rolling out your dough. You want to make sure that you don't just roll it up and down and from side to side in a T shape, because that will make a square. Instead, roll the dough in all different directions to create a circle. Now it's time to combine everything together. First, get out your 9 by 9 inch round pie pan and spray it with a non-stick cooking spray. Then fold your pie crust in half and place it on one side of the pan. Then unfold it so that it covers the entire pan, with the excess hanging off of all sides. Using your fingers, gently press the crust into the edges of the pan. And fix any mistakes, cracks, or holes that your crust may have. Now take your pie filling from the fridge and pour it into the crust-covered pan, and spread it out evenly. Take your second disc of dough out of the fridge and roll it out in the same way as I showed you earlier, and then cut it into strips using a knife or pizza cutter. Now, lay the strips out onto the pie. Make sure they are evenly spaced, that way it will look better. Now you are going to create a basket weaving effect by folding back every other strip and placing another strip in the opposite direction that you laid the first ones. Continue this pattern, except alternate which strips you pull back. Then, when you are done, cut off the excess dough that is hanging from the sides of the pan. If you don't want to do the basket crust, you can always just skip that part and simply put the round piece on top of the pie, but make sure you cut holes in the center so that the pie can breathe. Using a fork, create a pattern on the edge of the crust all the way around the pie. Then whisk 1 egg and brush it on the top of the crust. Now sprinkle cinnamon and sugar on top of the crust. I'm using a sugar that is larger than usual so that it will show up better, but you can always use regular white sugar. Finally, place the pie in the oven. As I said before, you can either bake at 400 for 15 minutes or you can bake it slowly at 375 for an hour. When the pie is done cooking, remove it from the oven and let it cool for at least 30 minutes. Then serve and enjoy!